Thank you all for being here today. Especially want to have a special shout out to all of our advocates. Good legislation comes together, not just because of the brilliance of our legislators, but because of all the hard work across our state to do the right thing for Oregonians. Thank you all for being here today. My vision for our state is one where every child has a safe place to receive a high quality, culturally responsive public education, and that every family has access to affordable childcare options. And while I will continue to push for more, today we can say we built a key foundation for our K-12 public education system by approving an historic $10.2 billion investment in the state school fund. That's an incredibly important starting point. And we need to do more on top of that. At the core of my vision is the effort to improve how we teach kids to read and write. With the passage of House Bill 3198, the early literacy, our federally recognized tribes, and all of our communities will have the support they need to help our students read. Thanks to the Early Literacy Success Initiative that I am signing today, we will have resources focused directly on aligning how we teach reading and writing with proven methods that we know get results. This is a major step in the right direction, and I want to particularly thank my colleague in the Oregon House, Representative Jason Krupp, for your leadership in getting it over the finish line. Thank you very much. And as I always say, and what I've said from the beginning, this effort will take more than one bill, more than one budget line, or one session to see all the progress we need or want for our students, but we are making progress with that bill. This funding is the first step of a broader strategy to improve how we support our kids as how they learn to read and write. So just Monday, I announced my appointments to the Early Literacy Educator Preparation Council. I know it's a little long. That preparation council will start meeting this fall to strengthen our educator preparation programs for teaching reading and writing in Oregon schools. This isn't just about the coming years. This is about the future and making sure our educators have the skills they need. Childcare, I'm just going to shift here, is also a big issue for our families. And I want to specifically thank Representative Lisa Reynolds, who I think is here today. Representative Reynolds, are you here? She's not able to make it. She was a huge champion, along with our Department of Early Learning and Care Director, Alyssa Chatterjee, and a lot of advocates in this room to pass House Bill 3005, which will establish for the first time a new $50 million child care infrastructure fund. Because one of the things we have learned around the state is that one of those barriers is expanding access to affordable child care, the actual physical space to provide that care. And so this bill will help make sure that we have more capacity building supply for our child care providers, because we need more child care supply and we have providers who are ready to do it. They need some help from us to help make those upgrades and expand that capacity to make it happen around the state for more families. As we went into this session, all of us were thinking about an essential principle about our public education and early learning system, and that is making sure that every child is served well and that we close the opportunity and achievement gaps that exist across our student populations. That's why one of the bills that we're signing today I'm very thrilled about, because with the support of leaders like Representative Wah Nguyen and folks in the Native American and Pacific Islander community, we are signing today the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Student Success Plan Bill, House Bill 3144. This new law will help identify systemic challenges and barriers and opportunities facing our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander students, because we need a state and a system that works for every child. Furthering this work to ensure our schools are welcoming for all students, we have House Bill 2281, which will ensure that school boards designate at least one civil rights coordinator in their districts in order to monitor, coordinate, and oversee district compliance with state and federal anti-discrimination laws. And we also have Senate Bill 1050, which will support teachers and administrators in meeting the requirements around Holocaust, genocide, and ethnic studies content standards, something that we know is important for the future knowledge of our students. None of these efforts happen without the incredibly dedicated educators and school staff all across our state. To all the educators and school staff out there, I want to say thank you. We know your work was always challenging, but post-pandemic, there are additional challenges. But you show up, you do the work every day, and I want you to know that I see that and appreciate each and every one of you, because we need you to recruit more educators and staff, as well as retain the wonderful professionals we have. And we're making progress today on that as well. I want to take an opportunity to say a special thank you to Senator Dembro. I think many of you know this. He just completed his last full legislative session. He's got a little more left, but in all his years of public service, he was always putting our students and educators first. And he worked very diligently this session on Senate Bill 283, which will help address the educator workforce needs across our state. I want to say thank you, Senator. This work continues with leadership, and finally, I would like to welcome our newest leader here to our state, Dr. Charlene Williams, who's taking over for us at the Department of Education. I have complete faith in her ability to lead the department and what we need to do in the future. We share the same belief that every child is full of promise and that everything we do should be student-centered. And she and I are both committed to working with everyone in this room and every Oregonian to make sure we have an education system, an early learning system as well, that works for every child. And with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Charlene Williams to the podium.
Thank you, Governor Kotek. And it's inspiring to see this room full of so many people committed to education. And we have now the opportunity to deliver for students in every part of our state, from Malheur County to Multnomah County, the promise of a high quality education. So thank you. This day is special in particular for me because today, August 2nd, is my youngest daughter's birthday. Yay. She turns 24. And I remember reading and singing and talking and counting to my children even before they were born. And we had a conversation about her remembering to read. I told her about this signing ceremony today and asked her what she remembered about reading. And she said she remembered how you made us read to you. And when she received those teacher notes with sad faces, remember those weekly report cards, because she was restless during reading time, we learned that she was an exceptional student when she was allowed to read to her peers. So reading is very important to us. This legislation in particular advances our will serve students from small rural school districts, similar to small schools that I've had the opportunity to work in, to some of our largest cities. Having led programs in schools in both small and large districts, I fully understand how deeply impactful it is for our children when we provide them with the tailored services and resources that they need. As director, I'm focused, as our governor just alluded to, on serving the entire state and implementing these policies in a way that boosts students throughout Oregon's 36 counties. A core component, as we know, of every child's academic success is learning to read. One of my priorities is to support the governor's early literacy success initiative. It is essential that each and every child in Oregon read and write with confidence and competence. Our hope is that each and every child from birth through 5th grade is set up for success in learning to read and reading to learn. This means elevating parents as guardians and full partners in their children's literacy development. We have to affirm the important role a family has in shaping the literate identity of our Oregon scholars. This legislation is also unique in that it centers literacy as a community commitment, shared amongst sovereign tribal nations, community partners, and schools. In partnership, we will link arms across Oregon to ensure that each child's literacy brilliance is seen, affirmed, and strengthened. I'm committed to that approach, and I'm looking forward to working with our communities in all 36 counties. Look for me, because here I come to help our readers write and grow in the state of Oregon. Thank you so much for your support today.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And we are successful in the legislature this year because we had two tremendous chairs of our education committees in the House and Senate. We're going to start with Senator Dembro, and then we'll proceed to Representative Neron. Senator Dembro.
Thank you very, very much, Governor. And today is truly a day of celebration of all that we accomplished in the session. But it's also a day of celebration of welcoming our new director. And I'm very pleased to be able to do that. Do want to recognize Director Gill, and just want to please join me in thanking him. Such a dedicated leader. The governor, I think, gave us an excellent overview of the bills that we're celebrating today, but I'm going to pile on a little, if you'll indulge me. I really feel as if we have fulfilled our promise to Oregonians to support and prioritize the success of all our students, all the students in this state. And the bills that are being signed today, as well as some additional bills related to education that are out there that the governor has signed, but are not part of this ceremony, are really going to advance opportunity for kids in this state. Record funding for K-12. And although it's not the topic of today's, I will also say, and higher ed as well, higher ed and workforce development, some real accomplishments there. Getting the new Department of Early Learning and Care off the ground. We passed that last long session, but you actually have to implement a vision, and it is on track. Building and strengthening our educator workforce, and I'll say a little more about that. Taking powerful steps to helping young Oregonians learn to read, and not only learn to read, but love to read. That is the key, that they develop a lifelong love of reading, which will be a lifelong love of learning and lead them to success and opportunity for the rest of their lives. I would also add renewing our commitment as a state to equity, which, as you know, is under attack all over the country. But here in Oregon, we retain our commitment for the success of all students. Wherever they live, whatever their background, whatever their abilities and their challenges, they each need and deserve a fair and equal shot at success. Very, very proud of that. These bills and the other educational accomplishments are the result of incredible partnerships. And I think it's no accident this room is so full today. We have seen partnerships like we never have before, whether we're talking about within the legislature, House and Senate, and you'll be hearing in a moment from my counterpart, Rep. Courtney Neron. I would also want to call out our education Ways and Means Subcommittee chairs, Representative McLean, Senator Frederick, our incredible work. We have some other legislators here. Representative Wawin has already been identified. Jason Kropp, thanks for all your work on the literacy work. Representative,
Representative Vance.
oh, where are you, Con? Oh, I didn't see you. Great. Yeah, he's hiding. We had regular meetings with the governor and with the governor's education staff, regular conversations with the Department of Ed and TSPC, just a lot of work But I do want to say, of course, the ongoing partnerships with teachers, school districts, classified workers, substitute teachers, all of that really allowed us to accomplish what we have this session. Let me just say a couple of things about Senate Bill 283, which is the educator workforce bill, which is, it includes a lot, but it probably doesn't include enough. It is part of ongoing work that's been going on really for the last year and a half. You know, when the pandemic hit, we became very aware of weaknesses in our workforce system. This is not just Oregon. We've seen this around the country. You know, we have seen the challenges of not enough people wanting to go into education. Too many people leaving the field within the first 2 or 3 years. The challenge of, and let me say that I think this has been said many times before, COVID and the pandemic did not create these problems. The pandemic revealed the weaknesses in our system that occurred over time, and it's up to us to address them. Some of the things we started a process that included well over 100 people from around the state, educators, school board members, parents, legislators, the governor's office, listening to the challenges. And I would say that 4 of them rose to the surface and that we're hoping to address in 283. You know, one was the big challenge of providing fair and equitable instruction to our special ed students. We have many challenges there, and that's where the workforce shortages are the most challenging and we need to address. The second is our classified staff, who more and more we realized are the glue that holds the system together. And unless we have ways to show that they are valued, to allow them to remain in the profession, to be on career ladders if that's what they want to do, we will not be able to sustain this system. The third is our substitute teachers. You know, we realized during the pandemic, because we were not able because we didn't have a surplus, we didn't have an adequate number of substitute teachers, the whole system started fraying, and people had to, administrators had to go into the classroom, teachers had to cover for other teachers. It was just a real challenge. Again, this is not anything that's unique to Oregon. We've seen this around the country. But with Senate Bill 283, we are going to move forward on addressing these challenges. And I will say just, 2 other things that came clear is we're not making enough progress in attracting and retaining our educators of color, particularly our teachers, who we know create success in students, the more that we can attract and retain them. And we are looking at some very creative apprenticeship models that we think are really going to help us move forward here. And so I look forward, that's one of the big accomplishments of that. The final thing that I will say is all of these challenges that we saw, SPED, classified, substitutes, et cetera, it's even more acute in the rural parts of our state. And so if we don't focus on a statewide approach here, we're not going to move forward. I want to say that Senate Bill 283 is very ambitious. It includes elements that there are some task forces, there's work that's going to be going on for quite a while. I look forward to the participation of many of you who are here. It's going to be very exciting. I just want to say as I'm wrapping up, it's kind of hard to believe now that we were in session a month ago. I left the country, fortunately. So, so it seems like much longer than that. But what it reminds me of is that what that means is that just maybe a little over 6 weeks ago, we were staring at the abyss here in this state. None of these bills would have passed if we were not able to resolve the walkout that happened during that session. And what a tragedy that would have been. Oregonians sent us to do this work, and I'm really pleased that we have been able to do that work through a lot of cooperation, hard work, et cetera. But it's something for us to remember that none of this is a given, and we need to kind of remember what is a big priority. And I will say, I neglected to say this before, but I should have. These priorities of education are bipartisan priorities. They were there as part of the core agenda for the Republican caucuses as well as the Democratic caucuses and of course the governor. And so there was a kind of suicidal element to this that we need to make sure it doesn't happen again. I really, for me personally, my vice chair for the Senate Education Committee, Senator Weber, who couldn't be here today, she wanted to be, but she couldn't. We were strong partners in doing this work. She was part of the task force that developed Senate Bill 283. This is not a partisan issue. Student success is bipartisan. And let me just close with one sort of happy story. One of the bills that that's not being signed today, but it's a little but very important bill. It's Senate Bill 279. And what it does is, as states around the country have been wrestling with educator workforce shortages, teacher shortages, people have come together to create a new interstate licensure compact, where if you meet the criteria, as a state and you commit to being part of this compact, if your teachers are licensed in your state and they move to another state, they will be licensed from day one in that new state. It's bold. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe we say this is bold. It seems so logical, but it has been a long time coming. And this compact was finally agreed this year, but every state needed to adopt it legislatively. That happened very quickly in the Senate, and then it happened very quickly in the House. However, then with the shutdown, the walkout, it was not able to come back to the Senate for its final confirmation. And why that was a challenge was one of the wrinkles of this new program is the first 10 states to join form the steering committee that writes the rules for what must be included in licensure. And just looking out in the audience, I know there are elements that our teachers are going to want to see in terms of equity and different elements that need to be part of professional development. And there were, as we were approaching the end of session, 9 states had adopted, and there were 3 that were close. And we were in shutdown mode. But we were able to, to come back, obviously. And one of the very first bills that was voted on in the Senate was the confirmation of Senate Bill 279. And that was great, but that was not good enough, because it's not enough to pass the bill. You have to have the governor sign the bill, which, our bureaucracy can take some time. We had that bill signed within 24 hours, and maybe by the end of the day. And people in the Senate, the House, the Speaker, the President's office, they just rushed it through, and the governor, of course, was there for us. Anyway, just an example of all that did go well this session. I want to thank you all, and look forward to more celebration.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Hello, everyone. It is a good day for education, and it is so great to see you all. I'm Courtney Neron. I'm the state representative for House District 26 and honored to serve as the House Education Committee chair. As an educator and parent myself, I am profoundly grateful that our legislature was able to deliver on these concepts that Senator Dembro and our governor have outlined. Collectively, they bring me hope, not only for this coming school year, but for the long-term future of quality learning opportunities in Oregon. With these 2023 session wins, legislators are showing up to best ensure every child in Oregon has a safe, nurturing place to learn and grow. Student success and workforce support and equity have been central to our 2023 session focus. The wide variety of policies we are here for today are an example of the kind of work needed to keep us on the right path forward as we rebound from learning interruptions and challenges faced by the pandemic and 3 decades of disinvestment before we passed the historic Student Success Act in 2019. By stabilizing our state school fund, making investments to improve student literacy, responding to our teaching workforce needs, ensuring professional development for educators, expanding out our childcare infrastructure, passing just cause job protections for classified employees, and everything in between, we are providing critically needed resources and policies to address our school's most pressing challenges. These are not just dollars, these are life-saving differences that we are making. From cradle to career, we must fund our expectations of education and our education system. And this session's investments are a testament to that commitment. While the work will be ongoing, the policies and investments we celebrate today will serve to stabilize quality education throughout Oregon for years to come. This was an ambitious session for education, and we have a lot to celebrate. Just as we in this room joined together with teachers, school staff, and community leaders to pass responsive legislation, I trust that we will also continue to collaborate to ensure successful implementation that accelerates our recovery from the pandemic. I am committed to supporting our education workforce as a direct path to supporting students, their families, and the successes our schools can achieve. I want to close by thanking Governor Kotek for her unwavering support of our students and our educators, and express deep gratitude to all of our education champions for your collective effort, expertise, partnership, and for making this work possible. Thank you.
So now we're going to sign some bills. So if everyone would join us, we've made extra space behind the desk here. We'll sign some bills, and then I will take some Q&A with press right after the signing. So please, everybody come up. I'm gonna just take these off. Show me one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Your call.
My color. So I want to thank members of the press who are here. We're running a little late, but I'm happy to take a couple questions. So if there are any questions, Dick.
You've come and talked a lot about education.
Hold on one second. Can we have, if you need to have a conversation, just go a little further in the back. Thank you. Yes, Dick.
You've now been in office for more than 6 months, and I'd like to ask you to take a broader look, you're not just a big person. What things have gone well during your tenure, and what things would you do differently? What are the greatest challenges ahead?
Wow. Well, thank you for the question, Dick. That might be a longer conversation, but here's what I will say. I think what is going well is Oregonians are coming together to solve problems. I truly mean that. Despite the challenges in the legislature, the session was finished. And what you saw today was the product of a lot of hard work from Oregonians across the state to improve our education system and to make sure our early learning system is stronger. That comes through partnership. And I think across the board, what I've been so excited about in my first 6 months is seeing all Oregonians stepping up to the plate to solve problems together. Absolutely true. And I want to see that continue. And I'm going to do everything I can to support that, promote that, foster that. We don't, no one person has the answer to the challenges facing our state. But if we all come together and work on it, we will make progress as we are today and what we're going to see in the months ahead. So, but I'd be happy to have a longer conversation about 6-month reflections. Here's what you should all know about me. I'm too busy doing the work to sit and think about it too much. So, but I'm happy to sit down and we'll have that longer conversation.
I have a question, remote OPB's Dirk Vanderhart. Mike Marshall at Oregon Recovers yesterday strongly suggested that you fired OLCC Director Steve Marks at his recommendation. Is that correct?
Here's what I would say. First of all, I don't want to address any of the allegations by Mr. Marks because it's pending litigation. I make my decisions on my own. And I have lots of conversations. And Mr. Marshall has said what he has said. What I know is that we need a new leadership at OLCC, and that's what we have.
When you think about responding to COVID over the next few years and accelerating that response, what didn't make it through this session that will be priority one in the next session? It has to happen during your tenure to get kids cut.
For me, the step now that we have legislation signed is to focus on operationalizing it, focusing on making it work. It's not enough to pass legislation or to pass budgets. So we started right away talking with all of our agencies, including our new director, Dr. Williams, about what we need to do to make sure this is going to be working in our districts as soon as possible. So I'm very much focused on implementation. I think one of the things I would like to have a continued conversation on is the mental wellness of our young people. Our children and youth in the state are still struggling, and we will be back, I believe, next year with more conversations about behavioral health, particularly for our young people, helping our schools, helping our communities, helping our families have the support they need. It's very difficult to learn if you are struggling from a mental health issue, and so we need to focus on that.
I have a question, remote Oregonians, Julia Silverman. One of the bills that isn't getting called out today is Senate Bill 1045, which Governor Kotek has singled out as a priority this session. The bill was intended to give the Oregon Department of Education more ability to oversee and intervene with the state's 197 school districts. Do you still see a need for that level of increased accountability, and how do you plan to address that in the future?
Yes, I do. I was surprised and disappointed that we didn't have Senate Bill 1045 at the end of session. To be very honest, there was a lot going on. That does not change my commitment to greater accountability. Working with Dr. Williams and the department, we will be back on that conversation, hopefully in next year's session.
Yeah, follow-up question to my question last week. I know that after I had done that report, raised the report on community, reached out to some of the shelter administrators. Can you talk about what the plan is there? What are you going to be doing to address that issue and make sure that both shelters?
Well, we are very focused, as I mentioned last week, on making sure our rural communities have the resources they need. We have just received the plans from the rural parts of the state who are looking for additional shelter capacity, and I've been very impressed by the plans that are coming forward. So we are continuing to push forward on resources. For individual communities, we want to hear directly what their concerns are, whether you're in Corvallis or in Enterprise. We want to make sure communities have what they need, and we're continuing to work on that significantly every single day. Lisa.
State's team has several data breaches. We had DFE, now the latest one involving Morgan Health Plan members. What's the plan to take care of this? I mean, this has been going on quite some time.
Yes. Well, first, my message to Oregonians is this is unfortunately the world we're living in right now, that we have foreign countries, international actors who are trying to get your personal data. At the state, we have increased our focus on cybersecurity, particularly across state government, to make sure we have better protections in place as much as we can anticipate. The recent data breach that I think was covered today with regard to the Medicaid data, I want to be very clear, that is not a breach of state government data. But it does involve Oregon Health Plan members who are on Medicaid. So we want to make sure that you can find out the support you need to protect your personal information. I also want to say that the coordinated care organizations that were using PH Tech as a vendor were also using the Move It software, which was the foundation of the problem we had at the DMV. There are softwares, that software in particular will continue to cause problems, I think, across the country and across the world. And that's why I think it's important for each Oregonian, take a few minutes of their time to check their credit reports, put protections in place. Unfortunately, we got a lot of folks who want to do bad things, and we're going to do everything we can to protect you. And you also have to do that yourself as well. So, and we'll get more information out on that one as that develops.
So the problem is they can police the vendors, or go through the vendors and see, well, who uses it, what is it, who uses it, we have a problem. What point the state steps in, and what is it?
Well, we will be talking to our contractor partners, the coordinated care organizations, but I will say after the Move It issue with DMV, we did check across the enterprise. Who else is using Move It for data transfer? Are you aware of that? Are you protecting for that? So that's the kind of due diligence we have to do across state government and with our contractor partners to increase vigilance, because unfortunately, I think we're going to continue to see these kind of incidents. Anybody new? Yeah, last one.
Just wanting to see if you could address the shelters that are already starting to close. And the plan that you had just mentioned in your response covers new capacity for shelters, but doesn't allow them to do the current level of operation. It's not funding their current level of operation. It's gone missing since the pandemic, as we know, for a certain number of shelters. What are you doing about those shelters?
Well, first of all, I want to thank our local governments who, during the pandemic, because of increased federal resources, did set up more services, shelters, and other services for folks who are unhoused. And we have to help them maintain that. We are proactively working with our local governments to find out what is in danger of closing that was stood up by one-time money. What can we do differently? We will have an assessment for legislators for a conversation in the 24th session to make sure we're not losing capacity as we continue to add new shelter capacity through my emergency order. So we are working to make sure governments can do what they need to do. And it's a challenging situation, but we are in it with them and we're going to figure it out. Excuse me?
It's not happening this year, it's happening next year.
Well, we're still trying to figure out what the immediate needs are. We have the bulk of folks saying next year is an issue. But if we have issues right now, we need to know about it. And I think we have been reaching out to the community you mentioned at the last precedent. So thank you for bringing it up. With that, I just want to thank everyone for being here. Congratulations for education in the state of Oregon. Let's keep going. Thank you so much.